Hello, welcome back to Chat About It. Don't shout about it with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by July 18th. Can I do it by then? Who knows? Today I'm reviewing the season finale of Doctor Who, The Empire of Death. Please remember, it is okay to like something and it is okay to not like something. Please drop a comment below as to why you did or did not like it, and then get that discussion going about all things Doctor Who. Now, some of you are chopping at the bit to know exactly what I think of Shooty as the Doctor. Well, stick around because I will be addressing it, and believe me, you won't expect what I'm about to say about him. So, without further ado, it's time to talk about Doctor Who. There are good points, neutral points, bad points, plot holes, and a ton of questions. I'm going to start off by quickly saying that the recap was a bit short. It needed a few extra seconds for casual viewers. It was a blink and you'll miss it type of moment. What was great here, though, was that the Doctor was finally trying to get people to safety by telling them to run. It's not something that we've really seen him do all the series. However, that's about as far as it goes with the regards to the interaction to these people. There were some really, really good cinematography shots for this episode alone. And I also think that the storyboarding for the camera angles was also very good. It was a good idea to remove Unit from the story as well. The shots of Triad and Harbinger blowing the dust was also very effective. This is my first downer though. Morris. Now, Lenny Rush himself as an actor was absolutely fine. However, turning his mobility aid into a gimmick and having a young teenage boy using it as a firing arm is a completely different story. And what's considered to be a family show, I don't think that's really appropriate, even though as an adult, I know that Morris isn't older, but to a young child, maybe, they will think, oh, well, he looks like me. And I'm not saying that to be mean. You can tell a child something or show them something with a real life connection and they will believe you. Now, I know that we see all sorts of things in cartoons, but so much of it is metaphorical. However, it doesn't stop a child from copying. My brother, he got us all banned from watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because he copied it. He kept using the ninja moves on me. Now, I also said about Shirley's chair being cool when I did a review of it in the Starbeast. However, after seeing Morris turned into a problematic gimmick, I'm going to be retracting that statement. I've also decided that if Davros is problematic in RTD's eyes, then so is gimmicking mobility aids and making them dangerous. By the way, I was never happy with Davros Gate anyway to begin with. I just thought it was absolutely pointless destroying a beloved character. I don't know if you watched the Tales of the TARDIS Pyramids of Mars omnibus, but in that episode, the bit about the alien race that Sutek comes from, the Osirans, that bit was cut, and Shuti's doctor refers to him as a Titan. Now, when the Doctor and his companions in this story enter the memory TARDIS, this essentially made that statement canon and truly made him the god of death. However, there's an issue with that. Titans are from Greek mythology, not Egyptian. This version of Sutek, even though he is an Osiran, he is essentially Egyptian, based off of Egyptian mythology. And also, why was the Doctor messing around with a time window? I didn't think that was allowed. Now, here is one of my favourite moments here in the memory TARDIS. Mel with the Sixth Doctor's coat. Love it. A little nod to my favourite Doctor, Colin Baker. However, I will ask this. Why, for a series that doesn't focus on past Doctors, are they focusing so much on past Doctors? Also, it was great to see them try to stabilize the memory TARDIS. The whole sequence was good. It felt more like Doctor Who at this particular point, as did the dust wiping through the world and the universe. However, it was short lived. It meant that Sutek pretty much had nothing else to do other than find out a name because apparently this god is so stumped that he hesitated. The perception filter is also 73 yards. Why was that not actually tied in with 73 yards properly? Now, I do actually have one request for Shooty and RTD, and maybe even the directors. Please cut the tears. He cried 3 times in this episode alone. This version of the Doctor that is supposed to have let go the baggage, he doesn't half cry a lot. Now, the plot has certainly made itself convoluted in many ways thanks to RTD. They certainly missed a trick with Susan Triad. Now, I'm pretty certain that Susan, you see here on the screen, the granddaughter, may very well be coming back only to be regenerated. So, straight from Carol Ann Ford into a new actress, which I think may very well be possibly a new companion that is being mentioned already. And this is why they have also been drumming up the chats surrounding Susan Triad in this particular case, though they have actually made it perfectly clear that Susan Triad had been placed through time and space, so she's definitely not the granddaughter Susan, who we also see here on the screen. So why is it then that the plot gets chatty and the Doctor turns up on some desolate planet, Star Wars style, and speaks to a kind woman who gives him metal in the shape of a spoon because he needs it? And those should have already really been in the memory TARDIS because the seventh Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, played the spoons, so therefore the spoon should be there. What I'm saying is they used this scene to show the damage that was done by the dust instead of having the Doctor, Ruby, and Mel travel through time and space, landing at the fixed points, only for them to meet Susan Triad at every turn in different forms. And also, the taking over of Mel should have also occurred whilst the action was going on. The chatty, that slowed down the plot way too much, and it became really jarring. Having said all of that, I don't mind the TARDIS linking to Ruby's memories to help solve part of the puzzle. That's okay. However, talking about memories, the plot jarred again very quickly afterwards with the cultural appropriation remarks that actually weren't needed at all. Even Millie, I feel, didn't know how to react. And maybe this is why we didn't have mummies, which is actually one of the best bits of the pyramids of Mars. But yes, the conversation was, yeah, I never understood. What was all that Egyptian stuff? Cultural appropriation. Oh. And also, the Doctor has told Ruby about regeneration, so why did he not admit Tom Baker's Doctor, the fourth Doctor, was actually him? I also had a nagging suspicion that it would be DNA matching that would actually be the resolution for Ruby's storyline. I wouldn't have guessed perhaps that it would have been 2046, so maybe they should have actually linked this into 73 yards. Maybe there was a potential scene that might have been deleted. I don't know, but they needed to have made that a bit easier to link, I think. Now, RTD and Moffat really like the Impossible Girl storylines, don't they? Again, we have plot regurgitation, the ordinary woman, Donna Noble, that is a point in time and saves the universe. Ruby's mum, a point in time that makes Sutek lower the perception filter and essentially saves the universe. That aside, I liked Mel being a threat to the Doctor as a companion, and at the same time, I didn't like it. It felt a bit like they were going for a Turlo-style classic companion danger for me, where Turlo is forced to infiltrate the TARDIS by the Guardian, the Black Guardian to be more precise. However, I will give this credit at the same time because it did actually give Mel more to do. She was much more mature in this series than we have seen her in the past and even in the audio dramas, and it did actually show off Bonnie's acting chops. However, I do have one question. Does this imply, though, that Mel was a minion all along? I felt like, if you want me to be honest, that was the implication. And a lot of the story canon from the past has been undone in this episode. So the DNA retrieval plan was also staged so the Doctor and Ruby could get back to the TARDIS. Sutex and his Angels of Death, the Star Wars minion. The goal was obviously to capture Sutek with a dog lead in the form of a bungee. And I have to say, this cinematography and the storyboarding for this was very good. And it was straight back to action, which I loved. But again, it was short lived. Did you know that it took about 40 minutes for them to defeat Sutek? And there were at least 10 minutes, if not more, just taken up by talking alone. Talking about plot regurgitation, I think RTD was also trying to recreate the everybody lives moment from the Empty Child stories. Everyone lives except for Harriet, who gets offed by the TARDIS. Now, how do people feel about the TARDIS being used in that way? I wasn't too keen on that. The TARDIS isn't a weapon. I know that she was trying to get herself out of Sutek's grasps, so to speak. And why does she answer to a whistle? Why? Here, girl. Come on. Here, girl. So when they are in the vortex, are they traveling back in time or into the future? There's nothing that's telling us this. Also, how is the vortex penetrated? The Doctor also talks about death to death, bringing death to death, excuse me. Tell me what you think about his statements here in the comments below. They're a select, so it's not entirely the full thing. Bring death to Sutek, Sutek the Destroyer, because I pride myself. I pride myself that I'm better than you, because if you're deaf, then I must represent life. Surely that's what I am, life. And that's how you win, Sutek, because you've turned me into this. I am the one that brings death. Is that the sort of thing the Doctor would say? To me? No. Bit undoctory there, but Ncuti did a pretty good delivery for essentially what was something, in my opinion, weak. And I will say this as well, it's about time the Doctor saved some lives. Now, because Sutek was incredibly rushed and defeated early, the ending was in my opinion, very anticlimactic. The legend of Ruby was essentially a giant MacGuffin, and it just turned into a giant soap at the end for the last 15 minutes. The mum was only ever pointing at a lamppost, just leave a note. And also a pregnant teen in Doctor Who. Is that something that we see? I know we had Amy pregnant in the TARDIS, but she was an adult. And here's something interesting. Someone once said to me on X that children and young people don't watch soaps. I will contest that they do. Neighbours is on twice a day. Now, overall, as I have said, the plot was very convoluted for me personally. I'll address that a bit more later when I talk about RTD's plot holes and ask questions. I think that every single actor put in 110% in what is the overall weakest script of RTD's finale for me. So I'm going to address Ncuti now. Now, I've said it before that I will never say an actor is bad. Having worked in the entertainment industry myself, I've had people ask me if I think Ncuti was a miscast, and so far I've refrained from answering. Now, here's what I think. These last two episodes are the best we've had from Ncuti so far. Whilst there are some connection issues with the dialogue, Ncuti to the dialogue, that had the potential to improve with better scripts and being allowed to talk about past Doctors on the set. It would be completely unfair for me to call it a miscast right now when the writing for his Doctor in this series has been so far removed from past Doctors that it doesn't sound like the Doctor at all. And that, in my opinion, is all to do with RTD and his cronies. Remember when Christopher Eccleston said this?
You'd all love to see Christopher come back as the Doctor, right? See? Now, what would have to happen for that to become a reality?
Sack Russell T Davies, sack Jane Tranter, sack Phil Collinson, sack Julie Gardner, and I'll come back. So can you arrange that?
Now, if we did that, or moved RTD to a different position within Doctor Who after the second series, of course, because he's already written that and got a writer who knows or remembers who the Doctor is, then we can see truly what Ncuti can do. Now, I thought Ncuti and the team had to actually make do, and I feel it really unfair to judge him because of a weak script, or a series of weak scripts in this case that does not show his doctor in the best light because this doctor does not sound like the doctor. Now, it was easy to make a decision with Jodie because the writing still sounded doctory. And overall, when we're talking about weak scripts, the series needed more threat and more pantheons of the gods. It mentioned the Mara, the Trickster. We could have had those. We could have had Isis, Horus. We could have had those. Now, do you remember when we got bi-generation? Well, here's a gaping plot hole for you. If you bi-generate the TARDIS using the mallet from the Toymaker's realm, then surely you would bi-generate multiple Sutecs from the Fourth Doctor onwards. By my count, we would then have at least 12 other Sutecs that now need to be captured and pushed into the vortex. And you should be able to see them, really, because the perception filter gets dropped in the time window. And how did Sutek manage to cling to the TARDIS when he had already been pushed through time to his own destruction? The Toymaker and the Maestro are also considered gods too, so how did they become connected to Sutek? And I take it that the Osirians no longer exist then. Now, why is the vortex that Sutek has been exposed to suddenly become lethal? If Sutek is now a Titan, then why did he die? Gods can't die, they are immortal. And also, Captain Jack became immortal because of the vortex. Are we just going to ignore that fact? Why is Sutek so stumped by someone? He can't see her? I don't buy that. The dust would still have got her, so why was it so important to him? And how can Sutek, the god of death, create life? And the vortex was also ripped open. So is everyone in the universe now immortal? And were the angels of death all part of the tricksters brigade? And what happened to the meta crisis? Rose was just there. And why was Doctor messing around with the time window? And here's a random question, which is probably stupid. Everyone was wiped out. Does this include the Flux, the Timeless Child, and the bi-generated Doctors? And that's a stupid question, so shut up, Rachel, and move on. Now, Ruby was essentially just a plot device, a giant MacGuffin to steer us from what was actually going to be happening. However, there were lots of things that they should have actually tied together, in particular the snow and the church music bleeding through time. And I mean, a proper explanation, not just what they gave us, like a brush off remark. Mrs. Flood, question: is she Missy, the White Guardian, Romana, Rani, or maybe even the Valiard? Now, I have listed a whole load of things, but I am sure there are loads more plot holes that I haven't put in here and I haven't really thought of and I've not covered, and a load of questions that I haven't asked. So if you have them, please do ping them below. But there you go. That's what I think. I tried to be fair as I could. I give it a 3 out of 10. The storyboarding, the cinematography, and the actors stopped this one from being a complete failure for me. And that's just for me personally. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. You are allowed to like it, even if I didn't like the episode. That is okay. Like the video if you would like to like this video. Subscribe if you would like to. Remember to chat about it, don't shout about it. And I will see you next time. Thanks very much for watching.